I stick my arm into this window and it is extremely hot. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, how are they even alive in there? So now I'm picking it up. I'm like, okay, I'm going into this window and I'm gonna grab these children. So I try to go in and I'm halfway in and I can't breathe. I'm holding my breath and it's hot. And I'm thinking, if I go in this window, I'm not coming back out.
Hello, Carrollton, Texas. In today's news, there is a 2-year-old trapped inside a house fire. The fire was started by the father's girlfriend who set the father's bed on fire while he was sleeping. The father managed to rescue 4 of the 5 children who were inside. As it remains, there is still a toddler trapped inside the home. There are firefighters and first responders on the scene. I don't know how this is gonna turn out. We will keep you posted on the latest as the story develops. Reporting for Good News 1, I'm Sherry Jones.
So I had to ask myself, if I go in here, am I gonna make it out? And I wrestled with it. And I didn't have long, but I wrestled with it. You know, like I've got 3 boys out here who are alive and have to live their life and are gonna need a dad. And I've got 2 boys in here that may not make it. And if I go in, I'm not gonna make it. So I decided against it. And I started just screaming at the top of my lungs, screaming for life, screaming for their life. The boys behind me, they're screaming. And I see a small speck of blue, just like I seen a little small speck of blue moving through black. And I just reached in and grabbed it. And it was Bryson's arm. My other son. I had one that was 2 and the other one was, I think he was around 3 or 4. So I grabbed his arm. And I lift him up, bring him around, set him on the roof, and now I'm going back for the second one. And we're screaming. And I'm tapping inside the wall, and I'm sticking my arm in trying to feel. And I realized I wasn't gonna save him. And at that time, knowing all that I knew I was outside of where He wanted me to be. And I didn't even feel like I wasn't just enough to call on Him.
Smoke filled the night, dark and deep. Lost the sun in the fire's cruel sweep. But he held on tight, didn't lose his way. Faith and love showed him a brighter day. Ashes to dust, he knelt down to pray. Through the tears he found words to say with a heart. Spirit, come and fill this place. I need your light, I need your grace. Guide my heart and show me.
But I did. I said, Lord, it's in your hands. There's nothing I could do. And as a father, there's no worse place you can be than to feel helpless in saving your child's life. There's no worse place. So I sat at the window and I just waited until I didn't hear him crying anymore. And by this time, the firemen are pulling up. I'm getting the kids off the roof. And I told the fireman, I said, look, I have a 2-year-old son, man. He's in this room right here. He was just screaming. He just stopped. Can you guys go there first? And he said, yes, we'll go there, no problem. I take the kids to the front. And that strangest thing happened to me. Tony, Renee, the girl who set the fire, I mean, she appeared and disappeared in certain moments. I was kind of focused, but at this point, we're at the front. There's fire trucks everywhere. There's police everywhere. And she says, what are we gonna tell the cops? Right. Eyebrows raised. Did your eyebrows raise? Because my eyebrows was raised again. And I'm thinking, tell the cops. I walked over to the police officer and I said, she started this fire. And she seen me walk over to the police officer. And she decides that she was gonna try to get out of there. So it was a very odd situation. So she ran toward the house, like she was gonna run into the house. And the cops jumped on her right on the yard, threw her in handcuffs, and walked her back down. Later on, we found out that she had her purse on the side of the house. So we, with our wounds and our bandages, were sitting in the back of the ambulance that arrived. And I'm checking on boys, making sure everybody's okay. And Chris is getting a breathing treatment because he couldn't breathe. And they're putting ointment on scars and burns. And it was a rough time. Like in 5 minutes, my whole life changed. And the officer came to the truck and he said, man, you should be proud of yourself. And I'm thinking, man, I just lost a son. I'm not proud. He was like, it takes a whole house, 2-story home built in the year this was built. It takes a whole house 5 minutes to burn down. 5 minutes from the bottom to smoke coming out of the windows, fire coming out. And he was like, to do all that you did and to get all that many boys out, you should be proud of yourself. Because that took a lot of work. And at the time I couldn't feel it. I couldn't appreciate it. I couldn't accept that. My son's gone, man. I lost one. I lost one. My dad wasn't around when I was a child as much as I'd like him to have been. And I didn't want to lose that fatherhood. I didn't want to lose, which was the reason I did so much. I took care of my kids. I made sure if they had to be with me, they were with me. But I didn't want to lose. I just didn't want to lose that fight. I didn't want to lose. And at some point I realized that I didn't lose. But it took some time. It took some time to realize that. And I walked through a lot of different phases, a lot of different stages. I moved in with my brother. We had news media following us everywhere. We had police department calling me to come in and give testimony after testimony after testimony. Give it to us this way. Tell it to us that way. We need to record it again. We lost the recording the last time. Write it down. We got 2 other officers that are coming in. Can you tell them the same story you just told the other 2 officers? And I go back and forth for about a week, just telling this same story. And I think they finally realized that it was so tragic, right? I couldn't help but to tell it word for word. the exact way it happened. Because it was terrifying. It was absolutely terrifying. Secondly, it was all I could think of. Because when trauma happens to you, your memory is lost. And psychologists told me that it could take 3 to 5 years to regain that information. 3 to 5. And I'm thinking, do I have 3 to 5 years to figure everything out? I've got to figure.
Every session at the gym is about pushing your limits and sculpting a stronger you. That's why it's crucial to fuel your recovery with the right protein supplement. Discover the power of isogenics. From moringa-infused smart mixes to plant-based proteins and advanced cell repair formulas, isogenics supports not just muscle recovery, but your overall vitality.
Figure out 30 years worth of life, 33, however old I was, in 5 years? No. That was almost as terrifying as when my mom told me how great she felt about me. And then on top of that, I go to psychologists, right? They assign you these psychologists, psychiatrists that you need to go talk to. And I go, I do the interviews, and everyone told me, I went to 3. Every one of them told me that you have been through more in 30 years than most people will go through in a lifetime. And I don't know how to help you. But if I can, here's my number. And by this time, I'd lost my mom. Not a whole lot went on that month, but a lot of crying and woe is me and sopping. And then that next month, we lose my aunt to cancer. And I had to figure out how I was gonna just pick myself up and move on. How I was gonna move through these situations, right? I was diagnosed at that point through all of the psychologists and therapists and whoever else I seen. I was diagnosed severely depressed with anxiety, extreme anxiety. And I didn't even know what it was, guys. I'm telling you, I'm going from living a life of miracles and blessings and joy and ministry and some hurt and pain and trials in between, to living a life that had no life. It was gone. My mom's gone, my house is gone, all of my kids' stuff is gone, my mental's gone. My kids are distraught. The only thing I had was a bunch of donations. I had a lot of people donate. Thank you to any of the employees at my former job, RAP, in Dallas or Irving, Dallas area, that gave a lot of people in the Carrollton area. Thank you all for giving your children. And they held car washes at Chick-fil-A for support, and a bunch of donations poured in. I didn't even know what to do with it. And that was the first time I realized that you can have all the monetary stuff you need, but if you don't have your mental, if you don't have your mind, if you don't have if your spirit isn't right, if you can't remember past yesterday, it does you no good. It is absolutely worthless. Absolutely worthless. Had a BMW in the driveway. Worthless. Couldn't drive. I couldn't focus long enough on the destination that I was getting to and how to get there. Not to mention, I couldn't remember how to get anywhere. I couldn't focus long enough to drive. I would drive and the GPS would have told me to turn 2 blocks ago. But I'm thinking, what am I going to do? How am I going to do this? Why did this happen to me? God, what's going on? I'm thinking. And I can't stop. I couldn't stop. Then my mind just raced. Like it raced to a point like there was so much going on in my head that I knew that it wasn't me thinking these thoughts. It couldn't have been. I don't think like this. I don't think horrible things. I don't think negative things. I've never seen negative things like that to even equate it into my life. So I'm battling depression. I'm battling anxiety. I'm battling feeling ashamed. I'm mourning my mom's death. I'm mourning my son's death. I'm going through a divorce. Locally, all my resources were shot. Everything that everybody would tell you to do. Right now, there's people online that says get a mentor, seek counseling, and protect your mental health. None of it worked. None of it.
Smoke filled the night, dark and deep. Lost the sun in the fire's cruel sweep. But he held on tight, didn't lose his way. Faith and love showed him a brighter day. Ashes to dust, he knelt down to pray. Through the tears he found words to say with a heart. Spirit, come and fill this place. I need your light, I need your grace. Guide my heart and show me.
None of it. So I go to the doc and I'm like, Doc, I'm having these, just depressed. And I get into this hole that would just take me into a deeper hole. And I don't know what to do. I can sit in one place at this point for 6 hours and just stare into a corner. At a minimum, I know I've done it for days. And the doc says, well, we got this prescription that we can try, but the side effects are suicide, nausea, some other stuff, shortness of breath. It was just it was a lot of extra things that I didn't need. There was no way I'm going to pull out of any of this if I add more problems to it. I knew that. Secondly, I haven't taken a pharmaceutical and I don't know, couldn't tell you. So I took this prescription. I took it. And I said, this is all I have. I'll give it a try. So when I got it filled, got the bottle home, read the instructions on how I was supposed to take it. And I said, God, you're bigger than this. I know you're bigger than this. This is not the way this is supposed to happen. This is not the way this is supposed to happen. It's not. And this is not the way that it's supposed to end. And I reclaimed my life that day. I said, God, I realize I'm not going through this for me. But when I get to the other side of this, I'm going to tell everybody how I made it over. And I decided not to take the prescriptions. I decided not to do therapy. I decided not to pursue another psychiatrist or psychologist. And I prayed every day. I read books. I found books that where other people had gone through situations and did just what I'm doing now, and they told how they came through it. And then I researched how the brain works and where thoughts come from and why we have certain thoughts and how we can cancel out certain thoughts and how we can focus on good thoughts to replace bad thoughts. Started meditating. Not sitting with my legs crossed in the middle of a room, but something like that. Started just listening to just meditation music and, sitting in the water, and doing things that would keep me very calm. Because outside of that, I'm running in my head 50 miles a minute. I mean, it was crazy. And things started to change, slowly but surely, but I still had to deal with this depression. I still had to deal with anxiety. I still had to deal with the humiliation of it all, because I knew a lot of people and I didn't want to be in the public. I didn't want to be on a stage playing drums with lights on me. I didn't want to be standing in a pulpit of a congregation with lights on me. I felt ashamed. And moving through that was the most difficult part of life. Like spiritually, I reclaimed who I was spiritually, and I knew from that day forward, I needed to be 100%. And I said, Lord, if you don't tell me to go, I'm not going. If I don't think the thought is from you, Lord, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing anything outside of what you ask or tell me to do. Nothing. You know why, Lord? Because I don't have anything. So you got to guide this ship. You got to help me raise these kids. You got to help me move through life. And you got to help me rebuild who I am. And I trust you to do it. Because I know I'm not here because of me, not just because of me. I don't control life or death. You tell me in the Bible that I have control over a lot of things, but you never tell me I have control over life or death. So I'm releasing that responsibility. I'm not going to take the responsibility of my son's death. Because I don't have control over death. If I had control, he'd be alive. But I don't have control over death. So you guide me. You take me where I need to go. You show me the things I need to see. I trust you 100%. More than any medicine, more than any doctor, more than any prescription.
Filled the night dark and deep. Lost the sun in the fire's cruel sweep. But he held on tight, didn't lose his way. Faith and love showed him a brighter day. Ashes to dust, he knelt down to pray. Through the tears, you found words to say with a heart. Spirit, come and fill this place. I need your light, I need your grace. Guide my heart and show me.
So I never doubted again after that. Never doubted God anymore. Because I knew I didn't have what it took to make it through it. I knew I wasn't going to be given the solutions or the help necessary to make it through it. But I knew God. And I never seen him fail. I never seen the righteous forsaken. Never. Never. Even through the times when I knew that I was doing things wrong, and it should have turned out wrong, but it turned out right, I knew it was God working then. And I knew that outside of, there's two wills. Outside of my will, God's will had always been consistent in my life. And it was the thing that showed me that I was actually being saved from the issues that I had prior, or from situations that I knew I had gotten myself into. So I knew, if nothing else, God, you remain consistent. In life, we go through ups and downs, and we think that those ups and downs are things not going right in our life. But that's not true. It's actually things not going right according to what we expected to happen. But that's not God's measurement on life at all. He doesn't measure things based off of what we expect to happen versus what happens. No, he measures life based off of what he has sent you here for and how much is being accomplished. God bases life off of what he sent you here for and how much of that is being accomplished. So when I looked at that and I realized that, I said, you know what? I don't need to have a will. I don't need to set out to buy this car, or set out to live in this neighborhood, or set out to make this much money, or set out to have this type of life. Because I tried that and it burned up in my face. So at this point, Lord, I'm going with you. What you want from me, where you want me to be, when you want me to be there, saying what you want me to say, listening when you want me to listen. And while that seems terrifying, hard, and some ways uncomfortable, was the best choice of my life. The best choice. Because now I have to move through depression, anxiety, and humiliation. But I've got backing. I got backing now. I can pray. I can get prayer through. If I can't do anything else, I can get a prayer through. If I can't remember how long to cook noodles, I can get a prayer through. If I couldn't remember that I was ironing and left the ironing laying on my son's pants and burned them, I can get a prayer through. And I knew at that point I needed to be specific and be very detailed, because of course we hear it in the church all the time. Write it down, make it plain, and pray specifically. And I've said, you know what? I'm going to do every bit of it. because I gotta get through this.